Okay, hello everybody and welcome to this live stream. And maybe like if you tune in later, it's okay. I guess I'll have to start right away because we only have a couple of hours. And I hope my audio is okay. Let me know if it's not. So the typeface I'm gonna design within 2 hours is gonna be it's probably gonna be something really simple, like a sans, I guess. And we are gonna start from the beginning. And in the beginning there was N and O, of course. So let me just quickly draw it. Sorry. I'm trying to monitor what I'm doing on the other monitor, but it's kind of interrupting me. Well, anyways, it's gonna be a pretty simple sans because we don't have time to do something crazy, right? And I think something like a medium weight would work well because medium is a beautiful weight, I guess. And it's also the most useless weight because you always use either bold or you use regular. So let's design another useless sans, maybe. Okay, so that looks like an N, right? Should we add some more character to it? Maybe like if we... Oh, maybe we can slant something here like that. Or, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. It's gonna add some character, but not too much character, you know. And you know, it's kind of difficult for me to speak and draw at the same time because, you know, I'm not a native speaker of English, obviously, so bear with me. And I'm using arrow keys to move points because it's kind of more precise than if you would move them from the keyboard. Does that look correct? Does that look decent? Let's... Hey, hello, hi everybody. I'm trying to monitor comments, but it's kind of not that easy, you know. But yeah, hello. So I think maybe the O can go a bit wider. What you think? No, that's probably too wide. Let's stick with that one. And I don't mean this as a tutorial necessarily because, you know, tutorials take long time to explain everything, and in this video we don't have that much time. So I'm gonna try to comment on what I'm doing, but at the same time, you know, don't expect it to be very tutorial-ish. Also, U is kind of made of N, but it can be a little bit narrower because it's, well, because of the historical reasons, I guess. And I'm using this linking metrics. So it says like this side bearing equals to L minus 5 units, if that makes sense to you. If not, no, don't worry about that. I always try to start with simple characters, like to design as many characters as possible in the beginning and then see how it works and how it looks. So the most difficult, the most interesting characters are always in the end. The M, as you may expect it to be, is made of a couple of N's. Okay, side bearings should be equal to N. Okay, and we already have half of the alphabet. Or maybe not half. And if you guys hear any noise on the background, that's your favorite MacBook noise. Yeah, I'm using glyphs. This is glyphs. I used to use FontLab and it's kind of good. It has some pretty interesting features related to like auto improving curves, but it's kind of buggy. At least it used to be buggy. I don't know if it still is buggy. Maybe not. L minus 10 equals L minus 10. Do you guys know any other simple letters? Like P? P should be pretty simple. No, Mac is Glyphs is Mac only, and FontLab is available on both platforms. Usually you can kind of copy and paste all of these letters, but because we have this slant, it should always stay on the top and always should be in this direction because of the pen movement. So in this case, I have to kind of modify each of them individually. And I always space it as I draw it because it kind of gives you a better impression of what it looks like. Yeah, oh, the R. R is my favorite. It's just like N, and you just remove all of these and you kind of make this thing a bit bolder, and there you go. Can also be a bit longer, maybe not. Sometimes it needs some adjustments of the curvature. Okay. I guess it's time for the C, which is of course made of made of O. But you always need to adjust the curvature because of this angle is not really nice, so just make it a bit more vertical. Okay. The E is, of course, made of C. I guess the most difficult part of the E is this part here, because you need to kind of make a nice rounded shape. Also, E oftentimes is a little bit narrower than O, because this horizontal bar makes it kind of look more wider than O, so you need to adjust that. Okay, any other simple letters? I guess we can make a T. And I copy and paste as much as I can, because that's just, you know, reduces the amount of work, but you always need to adjust that later on. So make sure your T descender is not as long as your other letters, maybe even shorter. I guess the most difficult part about T is that you need to make sure it stands on this arch, on this tail. So like pretend if it was made of like a physical material, and you would put it, and like if you have this too long, this crossbar too long, it can kind of fall. So you need to apply some gravity rules to it, I guess, if that makes sense. F is gonna be kind of similar to the O, to the T, but maybe we'll make some adjustments. Let's see. So the shortcuts that I'm using to, do you mean like these shortcuts? So I'm using, it's here, this feed curve panel. So it allows you to define how curved your curve is. And the shortcut for that is Control, Option, and then number keys. So that's a very handy tool. Thanks Glyphs for that. And yeah, I'm using that a lot. But also you can't always rely on these kind of auto improving tools. Always want to make sure to adjust it by hand. But sometimes like if you draw an O, it can be okay to just auto correct it. Kind of okay. Sometimes it's like not very obvious where you can find a certain shape to copy and paste. And yeah, sometimes you just need to be creative and figure that out. But whenever you copy and paste, make sure to adjust that. I see people just copy and paste like in modular fonts. It doesn't work like that in normal standard fonts. Okay. What should be next? Let's go for the V. Not a big fan of the diagonal letters. They are always, you know, like when you have diagonal letters, you have diagonals and you need to make sure they're... What is going on here? Oh, what is that? Huh. Do I have double? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. There was another shape hidden in there. Huh. And do you guys have any questions? Maybe like I can answer if I can. Yeah, sans serif is definitely easier to design quickly because it's at least you have fewer shapes, fewer details, and if you're working with like serif, there is a lot going on. So sans are, and I think that's the reason why most beginners, I guess, design sans like that. Pretty simple. And V should not be symmetrical, believe it or not, but the other way. This diagonal should be a little bit heavier than this. Even if you think it's gonna be a monolinear sans, it's still gonna be a little bit thicker on the left. Kind of looks, okay. W is of course should be a little bit narrower than just two V's. And the inner strokes should be thinner than the outer strokes. And then you also have these kind of asymmetrical thick, thin, thick, thin. So that makes it a little bit less intuitive to make than most people would expect, I guess. How did I learn type design? I just, in the university, I wanted to, for some reason, I wanted to design I wanted to have my own Helvetica. And I started just trying to figure out how you do it. And it took a long time to kind of figure out all of the optical compensations and all of kind of things like that. And yeah, that was it. In type design, I guess the problem is that you have to learn a lot yourself because unless you can go to like Type and Media in Haag, in The Hague, or something like that, because the information is very, well, I guess it's getting better there are more and more information available to everyone, but still it's kind of a closed club. Hey Edmund, yes, Glyphs. I think Glyphs is probably the easiest software to use. Like if you're a beginner, it has very minimalistic interface, so there is not that many things going on in the menus. So I guess it is. FontLab is a bit over complicated, I think, because they have all sorts of auto improving kind of tools. So I think it just makes less sense. And J should always be humble. J always cause a lot of problems in spacing, and it doesn't look good when it's long, well, at least in my opinion. So I personally prefer humble, short J's. Bit too picky. Can I recommend any good books on typography and fonts? Well, I guess most of the, sorry for the noise, I guess most of the classical books are good, like, you know, Chehold, and who else is there? Jesus. I've read all of those books like years ago, and I don't even remember the names. Yeah, so those old books, they are good, but they're still kind of old-fashioned, I guess, these days. But still, you can learn a lot of fundamental things from them. But I think these days, like, nobody really writes books. I guess people just, you know, do YouTube channels and courses. Yeah. That was a shitty answer, I know. Yeah, but I mean, if you want to start designing fonts, try just reading the tutorials on Glyph's website, on maybe FontLab website. If you want to go into like anatomy of letters, if you want to learn that, just study well-designed fonts like Helvetica or like, is there anything else? Gotham, Futura. Just open them and study them really close, like, you know, just go there and see where the nodes are, just convert it to shapes in Illustrator and just see where the nodes are, how they are not on the same level related to each other and so on. And you kind of will start understanding it, or maybe you will start questioning like, why is it made in this way? And that's how I started personally. I think that's a good way to start. Hi Morgan, thank you. Can I recommend any plugins for glyphs? I guess plugins are good for very specific tasks. So just whenever you think like you're doing something and you spend too much time doing it, just see if there are any plugins that can help you, that could speed up your process, I guess. X is my least favorite letter because it's just annoying to get all of those diagonal strokes correctly, because they are all different. Believe it or not, they all should be different. Let's leave it right now, but no, I hate it. Who invented the X? Okay, I'll get back to that later. Hey Gabriel, so I think it's good to have some understanding of calligraphy. Like you need to know how the brush or the pen goes, but the mechanical skills, I don't think that's necessarily. However, I think it really helps. No, I'm not gonna draw A. Yeah, so if you can, like I guess people who can draw by hand letters, I think they do better in type design, but like I cannot do any calligraphy. I just don't have enough passion, I guess, to sit there and draw all of those letters over and over again to get the right shapes. And I barely can even sketch in like draw sans letter forms by hand. So my sketches are very, very bad. And I guess some people can say that is visible in your fonts. Like your fonts are more mechanical, less humanist, I guess. Oh, that's an interesting slant. Okay, cool. You'll see what you can copy to make an S. Trust me, there is something. It's kind of too huge. Let's see. I think it should be. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just quickly sketching all of the letters, and okay, let's do the C. And I'm gonna refine all of them a bit later, maybe. Huh, that's your S, huh? You didn't expect that. And that's a lazy way to make an S. And the reason why I'm doing that is because right now I already have a kind of a symmetrical shape, and it's easier to work from here than like if you would draw it by hand from scratch. So that's already kind of an S. Cool. But now we need to make the spine thicker, because the spine should always be the thickest part of the S. And it probably should not be as white as C was. Always make the top part a little bit smaller than the bottom part, and you can also adjust the thickness of strokes. Okay. Kinda looks like an S. Not super happy about it, but it's kinda there. And by the way, S is one of the most, I guess, important letters to get it right, because there you can see if the person can draw letters or not. So I always try to make my S's as good as I can. They're not perfect. So I guess you can make an A out of N and S, maybe. Or you can just adjust it by hand. And there is no way other than by hand to draw this bowl, this teardrop shape. So I'm gonna just do that. Yeah, A is not the easiest letter to draw, but it's also not as annoying as some others like X, because you have a lot of room for creativity, so you can invent interesting shapes. Hey Wrong, sorry for missing your question. Yeah, I would use glyphs for logos as well, because it gives a lot more control over the curves. So even like if you draw an icon or something like that, like a vector shape, I would use glyphs for that as well. And I have. Like Illustrator, I think it's good for for layouts, but not for drawing. So if you need to draw a nice shape, use something else, if you can. Kind of weird. I'm not super happy about this A. I don't know why. Maybe because I spent like 2 minutes drawing it. Seems too wide as well. Yeah, okay. Cool. Hey. Seems like the lowercase is kind of done. Not in a super professional, super good way, but it's kind of... Yeah, there is some inconsistency in thickness, like this top is too heavy, this W is probably too light. So I guess let's adjust some of that. Let's go through them letter by letter and see what can be improved. And I use NOU because these letters are kind of basic and the rest of the letters should match them, if that makes sense. Maybe the S can be a little lighter. And by the way, whenever you draw an S, before you export the font, always make sure to add a note here and a note here because it's just better for rendering, trust me. But when you draw, you can draw like that if that's more comfortable for you. Okay. I don't know why most sans serif fonts have like double story A and single story G. It's just, I think it started with Helvetica. Like before Helvetica, there used to be like Futura had like single story A and single story G. And before that, Grotesques used to have like double story A and double story G. And I think it's the Swiss school who who decided to use a combination of them. I guess because it looks more nice, more readable. Okay, that K is a bit too light here. Maybe let's go with that kind of connection. I kind of like it more. It gives a bit more character to the letter. Yeah, I like that better. I don't have any criteria for when I have to stop perfecting the letter forms, other than just if I'm still passionate about them, if I still have an energy to, refine them, or if it's okay like that. And I think it's just better to move on and to design another typeface and make it better, to like learn from your mistakes from the past and just improve there, rather than constantly improving one single typeface that you designed like a few years ago. I don't know if there is any names for different kind of letters, different letter K, other than, oh, I heard that this is called like T-shaped connection because this is like a T, and the other is like, I don't know, like X kind of connection. So because the E is it's kind of more dark than most letters, you probably want to make sure it has a bit lighter stroke weight to add a bit more air inside of it. Kind of better. My font project usually go for like years, like sometimes years, sometimes months. Like my recent release, Right Grotesque, it was a few months, and I'm still working on some improvements and some new features. So it's kind of, you can release it and then you can just release an update for that if you like it. Yeah. Hello X, let me try to improve you. Hi Ella. No, there is definitely no standardized thicknesses, and there is actually nothing standardized in type design industry. Like literally, even things that you expect that should be standardized, they're not. So you can just, but if you compare like a few fonts of regular weight, I guess you can get the idea of like what roughly it should be, but there is no precise number. Should be a bit thicker. Whenever you export an OTF file, it at least Glyphs does it auto removes the overlap itself on export. But when you export a variable font, it doesn't. But the general idea is that try to have as least overlaps as you can. Like sometimes you need overlaps for interpolation reasons, especially when your diagonal strokes change width like that. So here you can see that it starts to distorting, and if you had this thing like that, it would be kind of equal. So sometimes you need to keep overlaps in things like that for interpolation reasons. But other than that, try to not have them. Well, I've been designing typefaces for a few years, like 4 or 3, something like that. Not too long. I guess there are people who design typefaces for like 20 years, and I'm like, what? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to make all of the letters a little bit nicer, a little bit more consistent in terms of thickness and in terms of width. Hey David, I'm 26. Thank you. Yeah, this is not the most exciting part of the process. And I don't even know what is the most exciting part of the process. I guess it depends on the person. But yeah, you can definitely sit there and improve shapes for years. Oh. Okay, let's say it's done. Let's go to, okay, we are 1 hour in. So we have another hour to design the uppercase and maybe numerals. I don't know. Let's see how far it can go. I haven't even tried this before, so maybe I should have tried this before, but you know, you're gonna see it at the same time as myself. And the uppercase strokes should always be a little bit thicker than the uppercase, because the letter is bigger and it has more space inside, so you want to compensate that. And uppercase letters should also be a little bit wider for the same reason, I guess. Okay. Oh. The uppercase letters are kind of more easy to design because they're more geometric and you just copy and paste all the time. Do you guys design fonts yourself or you use them, or like, I'm just curious, why do you guys tuning in? Who is my audience here, guys? Who are you? I know some of you definitely. Always make your F a little bit shorter, sorry, a bit narrower than E. Hey, Carlos. Cheers. Yeah, so as you can see, uppercase is like just copy and paste, copy and paste. And sometimes rotate. So did you, Ahmad, did you learn script fonts before sans and serifs? That's crazy. How did you do that? I mean, sans seems to be the easiest form, I guess. How did you learn script before that? that B is difficult. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes letters are unexpectedly difficult. So I don't know guys if you can see that, but these letters, whenever you have like intersection of two strokes, they create a lot of dark mass here, and that's not very good. So that's what ink traps are for. But I don't know if I want to have ink traps in this fairly simple type. So I'm just saying that ideally you should solve things like that if you have time, if you have like more than 2 hours. But in this case, it's gonna be as it is. V is usually a little wider than H, if you're wondering. But when you scale them from like lowercase letters, you need to adjust the thickness of the stroke. So that might be obvious for some and not so obvious for the others. Yeah, type design involves a lot of silence, as you may know. So that's okay. Yeah, drawing on paper is definitely better. It definitely gives you a lot more, I guess, control and independence from the software. I personally cannot do anything on paper, like anything reasonable. I guess I just don't have enough patience to sit there and draw. And yeah, I just draw in software, even like sketches. But yeah, definitely if you can draw on paper, just definitely do that. And oftentimes when you design letters like Q, when it seems like it has a straight stroke, in fact, you may want to adjust thickness, like make it a little bit thinner in the middle and a little bit thicker on the outsides, just to optically compensate the thickness. This broadcast started, I think, about an hour ago. So we have like 45 minutes left. Maybe I'll stay for longer if it will make sense, but probably not. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think this stream will be available on the channel. Variable fonts. They're generally speaking the same as single style fonts. Like if you're designing, let's say like a simple sense like this, it would be fairly similar to this setup, with the exception that you need every single master of your font to be the same in terms of amount of strokes, amount of points, amount of handles, and the starting point should be at the same place. And if you didn't know, any vector curve has a starting point, even in Illustrator, but you don't see it. But in type design you do, and you should know where it is. I didn't want to add any ink trap, but here we need some subtle ink trap anyway. Uppercase G is a fun letter to draw, and there is many things you can do. Yeah, sans serif are definitely easier than other styles, especially like something like italic. Italics are crazy difficult to make because all of your coordinate system is slanted and you don't have any straight lines, so that's just crazy. And I'm definitely not good at italics. And I mean like real italics, not like slanted Helvetica. You may expect uppercase A to be made out of V, and it's kind of correct, except for you need to make it a little bit wider to have more room for the crossbar. And always make sure this triangle on the inside is big enough. Okay, my favorite letters, K, S, and Z. Oh, Z is kind of easy. The software is called Glyphs. Spelled like glyphs. There is a great book about type design called Designing Type by Karen Chang. Yeah, she explains every single letter in detail, and it's a great book. Any thoughts on skeleton design? Do you mean like when you design a single stroke and then add like a brush thickness to it, and then you can kind of rotate the brush and get different results? Is that what you mean? I kind of like it as an idea, but I don't remember any like decent fonts designed in that way. I think because in type you need to, it's kind of more difficult than just applying a stroke to a skeleton. So you need to kind of rotate the brush in different ways, especially like if you think of a lowercase g, like double story G. So I think there is a way, like it should be possible to like program software to do that, but I haven't seen it yet. Or maybe maybe it exists, but I haven't seen it. Is that it? Ooh, okay. Okay, I guess we have like the whole alphabet now. We can adjust it now because it's definitely not perfect. It's definitely probably the worst typeface I've ever done so far. Or at least the most inconsistent, the most unfinished. I kind of like these slants on Z, but it doesn't really fit the style. Should we get rid of that? I think I tried FontForge, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it doesn't have like interpolation, and so I didn't even give it a decent try. I just opened it, tried to interpolate something, and it didn't work. So I like, okay. Because I mean, interpolation is like one of the most must-have tools for type design. How do you pick names for my fonts? Well, first of all, you need to have like beautiful letters in the names, like G or R or G or R, or maybe lowercase a, maybe S, maybe F, maybe T. But definitely you need to have like beautiful letters, because like if your typeface is called like no L, like you cannot promote a typeface with that name because it doesn't look like anything. So you need to add some G's and R. Great. But then when you call all of your names like that, it kind of becomes boring, and you start to think about like, what other letters can I use? Or maybe like I can use a different approach altogether. Oh yeah, Glyphs Mini, I think it's good, but I haven't really tried it. I heard that it's good, like in the beginning, like if you want to start to learn like how to draw and stuff like that. I haven't tried it. And I'm using this plugin called Wordomat, which generates random words. And it's good because you can see the typeface in kind of an action. And the space between words should be as narrow as possible, as long as it still separates the words. Like if you can still see that it's a different word, because I oftentimes see too long word spaces like this. Maybe. Okay. And by the way, there is a great plugin for Google Chrome by AeroType. I'm not, what is it called? It's called Xtype, and it kind of replaces any font on any website to your font, and it's a very useful tool for like testing your fonts, like in real life, in real layouts. Okay, so that looks kind of okay. What you think? Come on, give me some critique on this type so far. There are definitely some problems, like this S is definitely way too fat. It's way too fat. Where is it? Okay. Somehow I need to make it a bit lighter. Any tips on side bearings and metrics? Well, first of all, I prefer to set them up as I draw glyphs. So it's not a separate process, it's like the same process. As you can see right now, it already kind of correct-ish. When it comes to like actually how to set it up, I would recommend to, well, first of all, you start with the lowercase n and you kind of design the rhythm. Sorry, it's kind of difficult to explain like that. So you design the rhythm of the typeface. Sometimes it can be the space between letters, between n, can be the same as it is inside of n. But for display fonts, for like big screen fonts, it can be smaller. So in this case, it's definitely much less space here than it is inside of letters. Then you kind of set it in a way that it creates an even line or even texture. And I guess that's kind of it. Maybe the O is has a bit too wide spacing. I link metrics to other letters because it kind of makes it easier to update. So here the M has exactly the same side bearings as the N has it, for example. And also like letters like V or like K, it should have as small side bearings as possible. Like even, it can be even 0 or like 5 or 10, because you already have a lot of space here, so you don't need to add like extra spacing there. Same goes for F, kinda not big side bearings. Definitely X should be like also pretty small. Yeah, so the biggest side bearings are go for the vertical strokes like L. So this is 50 and it's the biggest side bearing in this typeface. Well, except for the lowercase, the uppercase, because uppercase has a bit wider side bearings because the letters are bigger and everything is kind of bigger. I hope that makes sense. I know it's kind of a shitty explanation. Yeah. Y is a bit thin. Do you mean this one or the uppercase? Let's see. Yeah, the uppercase definitely is thin. The lowercase is... It can be kind of a little bit thicker here. Because it has a lot of... It has like 3 strokes connection. So I'm trying to make it thinner to compensate this dark spot here. Yeah, but the uppercase is definitely needs some fatness. A bit too much fatness. Seems better. The Z has a humanist construction. Yeah, do you mean the sharp end? Yeah, I guess so. Let's cut that thing. So I thought it's gonna work because these letters have this kind of angle. So I thought maybe it's kind of cool to have sharp Z, but maybe it's not. And by the way, guys, I'm using shortcuts to align nodes from keyboard. Like I don't need to go to the transform panel to do that. And that's just a script that you can find on my GitHub page. Like if you want to use that as well. Because I think like because I align nodes a lot. And I don't know how can you live without aligning them from the keyboard. How long I create fonts? How long does it take to create a font before publishing? I guess. Well, it depends. Like I would say months, usually months. Sometimes it can be... No, I don't remember if I designed any typeface faster than in months, like half a year or so. Because, well, right now I'm designing a very... Like there is almost no idea in this typeface. It's very like... It's just a sense with no real idea. So it's kind of easy and fast to make something like that. But if you start developing something more unusual, it's gonna take more time. It is glyphs, yeah. How long does kerning usually take? Kerning, well, it depends on the amount of masters that you have. Like if you have a bunch of them, it takes a while. But for one style, I don't know. I want to say not as long as people say, but also I guess the question is the quality. So if it's like a shitty raw kerning, it can be pretty fast, like really fast. But if you want to make it like really good, you'll need to test it and print it and proof it and see it on the website and stuff like that. So that takes time. Okay, so I guess it's time to add numerals. I guess I usually start with the 0 because it's kind of made of O, but a bit narrower to make it different. What is the everyday work life of a type designer like? Do you collaborate with others? Well, I guess it depends on you. Like, if you want to, you can. There are definitely a lot of graphic designers who would love to collaborate with type designers. Or you can just, get inside of a cave and just draw letters. I do both. Sometimes I just want to close everything and just sit there and draw letter forms. Sometimes it's more fun to have like conversation with people. Seems like I'm running out of time. I have 15 minutes left to design all of the letters and stuff like all of the numerals and stuff like that. So maybe maybe we'll be outside of the limit. That's the worst 8 I've ever seen. Do you guys like to draw numbers? Because I don't. How old am I? I'm 26. What makes this font different from other scents? Really nothing, except for it was done for like in a couple of hours. Other than that, it's just a sans. It's a typeface that I think nobody should design anymore, because we have enough of those. But you know, when you have like a couple of hours, it's hard to, like, you don't have time to solve problems. And I think when you design a font, and if it's easy, that means that you haven't done anything new. So I always try to add some challenge in my personal fonts. And in this typeface, there is nothing new. It's just a sans. So I think that if you feel bored designing numbers and punctuation, that means that you either don't enjoy your typeface or you haven't reached the point of wisdom just yet. No, I mean, in fact, like, if you're really enjoying designing your font, you want to make every single glyph, even those that people never use, you want to make all of them nice and beautiful. But sometimes you, like, in sense, there is nothing really special about some of those characters. It may be a bit boring, yeah. But you know, like, if you're bored drawing punctuation, that means that people who use your font will also be bored. And like, if you design like a really beautiful question mark, people will enjoy it. What I like is that about 40 people are watching in silence. That's like against YouTube standards. Ahoj, čau. I have 5 minutes left to design, oh, like 10 minutes left to design this number 4. Should I try to kern it? Probably no. And whenever you have like 2 overlapping strokes, never have them like this. This is not right because it creates a lot of blackness here. So what you need is to move one of them away. It can go the other way as well. Oh, wow, thank you. And the period should be a little bit bigger than the title of the I, because it's punctuation and you want to make sure it's visible. Maybe not so big. It can be a bit more rounded as well. Oh, thank you. Do you speak Russian? Do I have any tips for selling a font? Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the number one thing that you need to do to sell your font is to make a really good font. I mean, that may sound obvious, but I think that people are not idiots and they know what is good and what is not. And so just design a good font, I guess. Well, of course, you need to do some promotion as well. Just see what other foundries are doing and do something different. Like see what like Greeley Type are doing with their promotion and make it different. I know that might be a shitty answer, but that's what I think, really. Would I recommend Adobe Illustrator for type design? No. No, I'm sorry Adobe, but no. The thing about Adobe is that about Illustrator is that you don't have any control over the curve. Like you cannot select handles. You cannot do this. And here you just hold Option key and you do this, which is helpful. You can do something like this. And none of that is possible in Illustrator. And also you can move the nodes with the arrow keys. I guess you can also do that in Illustrator. Well, anyway, the answer is no. Okay, so that's roughly what I've done in the 2 hours. Not the best typeface ever. Probably the worst fonts that I've done ever. But within the 2 hours, it's kind of enough, I guess. And if you want to, I can kind of kern it. Should I? Do I have any ideas on the next episode? I don't at the moment. I mean, I have a lot of ideas, but the problem is production. It's kind of difficult to make video because you need to, record and do the voice and all of that. So it's kind of more difficult and requires different skills than just type design. I think it could be cool to do something else. Is it worse than my first font ever? I think so, actually, because my first font, I spent like half a year just designing, just making it. So it was at least more consistent, more like carefully done. And this is like very, very raw and very quick. Yeah, short clips can work. Well, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I think I have to stop here because kerning is, maybe I'll do a separate video on kerning because it might take a while. So yeah, that's a 2-hour typeface. Not sure if it's good, but that's it. Okay. Thank you and bye.